could be your sanctuary if you're ready tonight. I know that it's all so heavy. Won't you let me inside? 'Cause I could be your sanctuary.
What's up guys, hope everyone is doing well. In today's video I'm going to be going over a lot of updates, so I'm just going to go ahead and jump into the actual analysis. So to get things started here, for a quick update on Bitcoin, I'm just going to be going over this hourly chart here, just briefly touching back on what I was going on in my last video about the sequential bull flags that we tend to see once a bull market reversal begins for Bitcoin. But right now we have come down. As we zoom in right here, we did test this median trend line right here. We've tested it about twice at this point. As we can see right here, we got our pink vector candles to signify an RSI low. Right now we could continue to come down and test once more around 23.7, 23.6, maybe seeing some wicks down to 23.5. According to how I had it laid out in the last video, clearly seen with this black pattern right here, we could continue just to straddle this upper range until we top out again somewhere around 25 to 26,000. Actually, that would set an overall new local top. And then after we do that, we'd continue to come down, hit this lowermost trend line once again, which is what's lining up with the flag portion of this pattern. Although it's completely likely that, for example, maybe we get something like this. I mean, we could trade any type of way within this flag and then eventually break out. It really doesn't matter. Obviously the whole purpose is that we continue to trade within this range right here until we finally break out for good towards the upside, actually shattering through the $25,000 to $26,000 value, heading towards 28 to around 32, 33,000. But outside of that, I'm going to quickly go over Ethereum and Cardano here. So here on this weekly chart for Ethereum, we can see if we go all the way back to December, November 2016, which begins this trend line support right here. We found it back here. Obviously, as I mentioned, we found it right here for the March crash correlation with the crypto market. That's what we recently hit right here in November to December of last year, bleeding into the beginning of this year. We haven't broken our essentially 16-month resistance like Bitcoin has. We are, like Bitcoin is though as well, trading very similar, again with this kind of flag S formation right here, an ascending type of bull flag. We could come down likely and test around 1500, which would nicely line up with this moving average band associated with the 200 estimating moving average. And then after that, likely we would then come up to break right here more around 17 1800, which would then break that 16-month resistance. And then eventually heading towards this 800 EMA, and if this fractal pattern right here correlates and lines up nicely, we would break it up a little bit and then go sideways for a little bit, finding support along this 800 EMA, and then actually eventually carrying on the momentum and movement towards the upside. As I've mentioned in the past, I don't really think it's meant to be that Ethereum's market value is ever going to pass Bitcoin. So I'm thinking more somewhere around 25 to around 32, 33,000 is likely the range that Ethereum will go to for the next bull market high. If we take a look here at the indicators, we are seeing pretty much the same thing down here for this RSI. If I were to add a rough line at around 52, it's pretty much exactly like Bitcoin. Obviously, most of you should be aware that everything pretty much just follows Bitcoin. We've broken above this yellow line, which just correlates if you go back to the March crash. You break above it. As long as we stay up above that, we're going to continue bullish behavior. I mean, the same thing happened back here. Once we broke it in December of 2016, stayed above it, and then carried out some parabolic bullish behavior. Stock RSI is completely topped out at this point, which is a nice thing to be seeing heading into what could likely be a bullish reversal, because again, going back here to the previous bull run, we have to straddle this upper range for the stock RSI to continue that positive, basically acceleration towards the upside. And taking a look at the MACD down here, we have nicely broken above the 0 point. We went below it, tread underwater for a little bit, Eventually started to converge back upon the zero. Again, like I said, we've broken above it. If I were to draw just a quick trend line, something along these lines right here, go ahead and make another one to get like a little range. You can see we would kind of, if you looked at it in form of some sort of triangular-esque, just kind of build up consolidation. Very roughly, you can see we kind of found support right here. Hopefully we will continue to see this MACD stay above this point and then continue up towards the upside, but no problem in seeing a retest of the 0 point line or even back down to this range back down here. Here for Cardano, essentially the same thing. We have broken above our 16-month resistance with this yellow dotted line right here. We're seeing, again, same return back to the March crash range for support right here. Got our pink vector candles as well, denoting the area when we're starting to enter that most oversold territory, lining up with the actual macro bottom. Right now we need to see Cardano break above around 42, 43 cents, which would line up with breaking out above this low range right here. Then likely the next area, at least according to this fractal pattern, also does nicely line up with the 200 EMA, continue to move up as price goes up, and also the previous areas back here for the actual price. We could find some sort of resistance in this general area right here. We'd likely move up to this, find some stoppage, trace a little bit, and then eventually continue to go back towards the upside. Price targets have changed a little bit for this update. The three ranges I have leading up into this top out range would be about 15, 25, up to at highest $38, which should line up with, like I've been mentioning, around 6, 7, 8 months into 2024, assuming Bitcoin sees that double top, similar to the current cycle we're in with respect to the current phase. Again, I'm likening it back to the $64,000 to $69,000 top. If you want more elaboration on it, this is your first time watching my content, I'll have cards linked at the beginning of this video that are going to more elaborately go over my whole cycle theory and why I have projected out pretty much a very self-similar move from March all the way to the most recent top that we set, given that is just what adheres to the current phase that we're in of the cycle. But here, going over to the total crypto market cap, including everything, we are seeing this descending broadening wedge, which is a bullish pattern. If we do, for whatever reason, get rejected and the entire market goes down once more, not going to see a very good drop at all. I mean, at highest, it would head towards around 381 billion, at lowest 256 billion. I don't think that that's likely at all. I think we will continue, as if you see down here on this RSI, broken above this yellow line. So hopefully we'll continue to stay up there. Stock RSI also, hopefully we'll continue to straddle this top area. And then essentially the same idea down here for this MACD as well. So I got done going over for the other coins. But we are breaking just a little bit, not fully broken out above this roughly 16 month resistance. In general, right now, I just need to continue to see strength pushing above the essentially approximately 1 trillion that it's at right now. If I were to quickly take this pattern right here, the next area is probably roughly going to be, I'm not sure where it's actually going to top out at. If I remember correctly, I was thinking more around like 21 trillion, but I really don't know at this point. So I'm just going to go ahead and scratch that idea. I'm just going to go off previous price performance. So likely, once we get this breakout right here, we'll likely come towards around in this general area right here. So could likely find some price halting around 1.37 trillion to around 1.84 trillion. Sit there for a little bit, just similar to how I've been mentioning with, if I go back here to Bitcoin real quick. All right, I guess this doesn't want to go away. If I go back here to, yeah, right here for Bitcoin, it's just pretty much going to look exactly like this. We'll continue to move up here. We'll stop for a little bit and then continue to move back up and eventually sit there before we finally get this total parabolic movement towards the upside. If I had to guess, anywhere from like 15 to 20, 21 trillion is likely where the next overall market cap is going to go to. But here for this other total market cap, this is all the altcoins basically. So this is excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum. If we look down here quickly at these indicators, pretty much painting the exact same picture I've been going over for all of the things previous. This one right here is still rather far away from the 16-month resistance. If I were to take another one, actually move it down more towards where the candles have closed, you can see that we're coming up and touching it right now. Again, if we get rejection here for the market in general, it's not going to be a very fun ride towards the downside, heading more towards at highest 145 billion, lowest around 88, 89 billion. Again, I don't personally think that is what's going to happen. Right now, we need to see this total market cap, again, excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum. So for all the altcoins, pushing above essentially 423 approximately billion, and then continue towards the upside there. Likely we would come and test somewhere around these two areas right here, ranging from around 460 billion all the way up to around 700 billion. Sit there again, similar to how I just got done mentioning with Bitcoin. We'll have some upwards ascending consolidation, again mentioning how I've been talking about my recent videos with these bull flag-esque patterns, more so of an ascending variety, starting out in these lower hourly time frames. So far it's transitioned into the daily. Now we need to see this pattern transition into the 4-day to about the weekly. Here for an update on the New York Stock Exchange on this 4-hour chart. Heavily oversold on this RSI. As I mentioned last time, we got our pink vector candles printed right here. So we could actually see a bounce here in the short term. We could likely, because I do still think currently that decoupling is in its way of ensuing, not just because of what we see in the charts, but just because of where the overall social climate, just the way that the globe seems to be going right now. I think we're actually going to see a rather rapid adoption of all of this technology in the coming 3 to 5 years or so. So what we could likely see here is a perfect case scenario, assuming this continues to go down, is we'll get a bounce from up here. We'll come up in this area, maybe consolidate sideways for a little bit, who knows. Maybe we'll get immediately rejected, come down to this area, and then likely what we would do is we would flip, the price would go below this band. This band would then flip into the white, which is going to correlate with the price continuing just to drop down towards a downside here. The next major milestone is losing 15.3 to 15,000. And then after that, as I've been mentioning for quite some time, I think the overall price target of this downside action is going to end up around like 11.5 thousand to as high as around 12.5 to 13,000. So in general, just around 11.5 to 13,000. But if for whatever reason I'm wrong, which is completely possible, we continue to move up from here, we shatter this area, and then we head back up towards this blue range. Seeing the New York Stock Exchange break back above 17,000 will then reclaim the bullish behavior of the stock market in general, discrediting some sort of a decoupling. Right here on this 5-minute chart for XYO, if I go to this XYO to Bitcoin real quick, the only difference here, most of you should already be aware, is we got on the XYUSD chart, we got a symmetrical triangle. On the XYO to Bitcoin chart, we got a falling wedge, falling triangle pattern. Both of them just been going literal sideways this entire time. So we're zoomed in here on this 5-minute for XYO. Right now, best case scenario, we want to see the price continue to go up from here, obviously. If we start to lose again, heavily 0.006, and then we head back down, we could either head back down here, retest around 0.0059. Maybe we'll sit here for a little bit and then get that bounce. Perhaps maybe we would print some sort of a bullish divergence for that. But let's say we do actually, we see this breakdown here. We do see this breakdown. I didn't mean to click that one here. So if we go to this 4-hour chart, we continue to see strength towards the downside. We really solidly lose this 800 EMA, and also, I mean, really the 200 EMA, because they're pretty much entangled just about at this point. So if we significantly start to lose around 0.0059, best case, or actually technically, well, best worst case scenario, we just come down and we test around 0.004, then we get a bounce from there. But then worst case scenario, we actually come down and we retest our lows at 0.003 approximately, and then get a bounce from there. If either of those end up happening, we could be looking at another 30 to 40% drop, best worst case scenario, and then absolute worst case scenario, we've seen about another 50% move towards the downside here for XYO. At this point, in all honesty, I'm about 50-50 on what happens for here. If we actually go back to Bitcoin, adhering to this, given that unless we break out more quickly here and we don't consolidate sideways and get this drop leading in more towards around halfway into March, and then we finally break towards the upside here for Bitcoin to higher price targets, higher local highs, then I wouldn't be surprised at all if, Bitcoin continues to go sideways or it even drops, but we actually see XYO bounce from here towards the next price target, up towards a penny and a half to around 2.5 pennies, according to the previous price consolidation, and where it would likely find some sort of a momentum halt. A lot of the times the altcoins, for the most part, the altcoins move in near unison with Bitcoin, but a lot of the times you'll see a number of these altcoins move up. Like Bitcoin will move up and then the altcoins will lag behind it, but even sometimes the altcoins will move up before Bitcoin actually makes its more drastic move. That only really includes a small number of altcoins, and I would say XYO would have to be one of them, because when you go back and you look at the overall macro view of XYO more towards the weekly, XYO is more decoupled from being in unison with Bitcoin than a lot of other altcoins are, so I would not be surprised at all if we were to actually see XYO see some movement towards the upside here without Bitcoin really having to do anything. But here for Phantom, there's not too much of an updates here for most of these altcoins. I'm really just going to go over where we could likely go down for retracement here. If we continue to go lower, right now we could likely find some bottom out on this around 200 EMA at around 47 cents. If we lose that, we could head down to around 43 to 45 cents. If we lose that, then the next area is pretty much going to line up with this area of price going all the way back here, which is going to essentially line up with this 800 EMA area right here at around 30 to 35 cents. If we end up losing that, likely Bitcoin is entering that bear trap that I've been mentioning recently. It's going to retest its previous lows, but again, I don't personally think that is the most likely scenario here at this point. Completely valid and possible at this point, but I just don't think that's what's going to end up happening here for the market in general. Take a look at JASMY again, very similar to Phantom. We're testing our ascending lows right now that we've continued to bounce off on. Hopefully we will continue to bounce off on this at lowest around 0.006, maybe seeing some wicks down to this 200, this white 200 EMA right here, similar to how we did back here for this low, and then we got this final bounce right here. If we lose that, we could come down to at lowest around 0.0036, at highest 0.0045. So about 1/10 of a penny difference there. But if we lose that, then again, like I said, probably going to retest the lows, or maybe bear market's not actually over and we continue to go lower here. Here for Theta, Theta's been doing pretty good recently. Again, similar to what I've been going over for JASMY. Phantom could come down to this range right here at around $1. I'm going to say around $1 to $1.10. Lining up with the 200 EMA and also the 800 EMA. If we lose that, we could come down and test around 90 to around 95 cents. If we lose that, again, we're likely going to test the lows again, going down to as low as around 70 cents. Yeah, that was the previous low. So worst case scenario, 70 cents, or like I said, maybe even lower here for the entire market. Here for TRIAS, again, TRIAS has been also performing, I would say, better than a lot of the other altcoins recently. We could come down and test around this 200 EMA, also this trend line right here, which hopefully will flip this into support when we come back down to it, if it comes back down to it, at around $2.55 to $2.58. If we lose that, we could come down to this 800 EMA right here in this area at around $2. And then I would say worst case scenario, we come down to around $1.60. If we then lose that, then we will likely go down to test around $1, all the way back down to around 80 cents at the previous lows. Here for Dogecoin, again, still finding overall upwards trading in this range we've been seeing here as I've been going over within the last few weeks. I think what's likely here is we'll likely continue to go sideways if we don't get a nice movement towards the upside here soon. Kind of just straddling this 8-cent range until we finally move back up towards 10 cents, 11, 12 cents, breaking that to continue to set some higher local tops. Actually go to the daily here and go all the way back to where this white range is correlating with. You can see that going back here, this area right here is actually what I just got done going over right here, but obviously out in the future. So we could go sideways outside of this white range, exactly like we did back here, because we are just going to get a very self-similar fractal-like occurrence going into the next bull market. Again, that's going to be a part of the cards at the beginning of this video if you want to dive more into what I mean by that. So we'll go sideways. We'll likely then, as you can see here with this blue pattern, once we get done going sideways, we'll come back up and we'll relatively locally test this, again, this ascending white range if I were to carry it out. And then again, once we saw solidly break through, at this point at highest 15 cents, that's going to initiate the next major move up towards probably around like 30 to 40 cents, if I had to guess. Here for CRU, we've broken down from this ascending wedge pattern. The price target's around $1, which would just nicely line up with retesting roughly this 800 EMA and also retesting these two white trend lines right here, setting this range, which is the macro resistance that this coin had been facing up until we finally broke above it back here about at the end of January, the end of the last month of this year. We could likely find support along about $1.65 along this 200 EMA. Let's say we're going to see something like a fake out here and then we continue to go towards the upside. Or again, like I said, we could come down here, test this, and then bounce back up towards the upside. Something along those lines. We do lose $1. Next area is going to be around 58 cents, which that just lines up with essentially the previous lows around 50, 60, yeah, around 55, 58 to around 50 cents or so. Again, that's likely if Bitcoin were to see some more substantial downside here, or maybe not. You know, this is an altcoin. At the end of the day, it can completely get dumped on while Bitcoin continues to go up. But here for Algorand, we've seen this very nice ascending support right here. So we have this purple dotted line, which lines up with, we could come and down and find support around 25 cents. Correlates with this most recent bottom we set. We also printed some pink vector candles here as well. If we do lose that, likely we come down to the range around 23 to at lowest around 20 cents. If we lose that, again, likely could find some support around right here at around 18, 19 cents, but we'd likely come down and test these previous macro lows at around 16 cents, or as I've been saying this entire time, perhaps the bear market isn't over and this is the biggest bull trap in history and we're about to head towards 12,000 for Bitcoin and altcoins are about to see another 50+% drop towards the downside. But right here, these two yellow trend lines encompassing this range is the macro resistance that Algorand has been facing in this bear market. So right now it's very important for Algorand to, going back to this previous top right here, we need to break above essentially 30 cents to continue to see sustained momentum and movement towards the upside here. That was really about all that I wanted to go over and touch on in this video. I just wanted to get a quick update out concerning a few of these other altcoins some of you have asked me to go over, and really just kind of further touch on this hour chart for Bitcoin. And just to kind of clarify that we could, I'm not saying we're going to get something exactly like this black pattern. I mean, we could, for all I know, if all or anybody knows, like, I mean, we could break out above this within the next like week or so before this month ends. But all that being said, hopefully you guys enjoyed the content. Hopefully you're able to learn or take something away from this video, and I hope you all have a blessed day.
Ooh, I'm regretting now, won't I see you forever, such a long